So this woman come to my home and killed my wife.
His wife was shot to death in her North Idaho home back in 2017. Today, a judge ruled the case against her accused killer can move forward.
After a night with temperatures well below the freezing mark, we're going to moderate heading into the weekend, but we are tracking a few more rain chances before that.
And as of today, 6 streets are now permanently closed in northeast Spokane to make way for the north-south freeway. We'll tell you what you need to know so you don't run into any roadblocks. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you with us tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. We begin tonight with a half dozen permanent street closures in the Minnehaha neighborhood in northeast Spokane. It is the latest development in the construction of the north-south freeway.
KREM 2's Casey Decker went to that area tonight to explain what you need to know about the changes.
Well, this section of Fairview near Market is now closed for good. 5 other nearby cross streets as well, and that's not even all of it. We're also expecting to see some long-term closures of arterials in the coming weeks. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, crews shut down portions of these 6 streets forever. It will no longer be possible to use them to pass the corridor zone. That's for a few reasons. 1, the railroad needs to be realigned, and 2, the new north-south freeway will go directly through that area. So, where will east-west traffic be routed? WSDOT says the main roadways will be Carlisle and Euclid, but Euclid will also be closed for a short time. WSDOT currently estimates between October 21st and November 4th. They'll be moving some utilities and then rebuilding the railroad and the street. So during late October, some drivers may have to add nearly a mile to their route to travel south to Carlisle or north to Wellesley. Wellesley, too, will eventually see a long-term closure, but they won't shut it down until Euclid reopens. Originally, Wellesley was going to close in the late summer. Now it's sometime in the late fall, though we don't know exactly when. Once it closes down, it won't open up again until 2022. For 3 years, drivers will need to reroute a mile north to Francis or a mile south to Euclid, an estimated 2 to 3 minutes longer trip. WSDOT has said they looked at ways to avoid that closure, but none were feasible. The closure will allow the highway to expand to Wellesley by 2022, the southernmost point to date. Now, even after all of this section is completed, there's still a long ways to go. Currently, the final freeway is expected to open in 2029. Reporting in northeast Spokane, Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
We're getting there.
10 more years. That's it.
Who's counting, right? Okay, it's been a very chilly start to the month of October, but here's the good news. Warmer temperatures are definitely on the way.
Yeah, let's get straight to meteorologist Thomas Patrick in the Weather Center with more on that. Thomas?
Yeah, after the last couple days, I think all we can ask for is for A, it to not be below freezing, and B, just some normal fall temperatures. And we'll get there, but it's just a slow process this week. Our temperature is really bottoming out in the 20s in several locations. Early this morning, a balmy 31 in Spokane, standing out but still below the freezing mark. But we won't be that cold tonight because of the cloud cover. Looks like there's some precipitation that's trying to move through central Washington, but probably not hitting the ground. But it's still going to be cold, just not as cold this time around. So for tonight, early tomorrow morning, 37 in Spokane, 34 in Deer Park, should stay above the freezing mark this time around. It'll be a cloudy day all day tomorrow with temperatures topping out in the mid-50s overall, but slowly getting back to some normal fall-like weather and even a few days above average in the forecast, and I'll tell you which days those are coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Thomas, thank you. As the vaping epidemic continues to grow, several advocacy groups in Idaho are hoping to bring the vaping age up to 21. Right now in Idaho, you can buy e-cigarettes if you're 18 or older. These groups, though, plan to bring the Tobacco 21 measure before lawmakers during the 2020 session with a focus on e-cigarettes.
And we know that young people have 18-year-old friends. So if we can push the age as late as possible, we reduce access and we reduce the likelihood that a young person will initiate and become addicted.
National data shows tobacco use as a whole is increasing among teens. So far, the CDC reports more than 800 people have gotten sick because of vaping, and more than 15 people have died because of it. Nearly 2/3 of patients are under the age of 34.
And a new vaping tax is now in effect in Washington. Vapors of so-called open systems, which are basically reusable and refillable, will now pay around a 12% excise tax on juices. Closed systems, which are products like the Juul pods, would pay about a 4.5% tax. The tax is expected to raise $25 to $30 million a year, with that money going towards education, enforcement, and cancer research. It was a murder that went unsolved for nearly 2 years, but now the case is moving forward against the North Idaho woman charged with killing a former Hope City clerk.
Shirley Ramey was shot and killed in her rural Bonner County home back in 2017. The case went cold until this summer when investigators say a key piece of evidence linked the suspect to the crime. KREM 2's Taylor Vida was in court today and brings us the new information.
Notably, today we learned that, according to testimony, cell phone records placed the suspect in Bonner County the day of the murder. Other testimony also focused on her mental health.
You know, this woman come to my home and killed my wife.
It's the first time many from the small town of Hope, Idaho, saw face-to-face the woman who's accused of rattling their community. It was also the first time Daryl Ramey saw the woman accused of gunning down his wife.
Finding my wife laying dead in a pile in blood was the worst day of my life.
The case made headlines in April of 2017. Shirley Ramey, the former city clerk in Hope, was found shot to death in her rural home about 1.5 miles off the main highway. It wasn't clear who pulled the trigger, and the case went cold for nearly 2 years. Then, this past summer, detectives ID'd a Coeur d'Alene woman, Judith Carpenter, as the suspect. The afternoon of the murder, it would turn out, she was arrested in a road rage incident in Montana, and a federal gun database eventually linked a pistol she had to the Ramey crime scene. Carpenter also had a rifle that was stolen from the Ramey home, investigators said.
And I'm sure the court will do the right thing and make sure that there's justice done.
Today, both sides made their case before a judge during a preliminary hearing. Daryl testified about what happened the day he found his wife. We also heard from detectives who followed the case. Carpenter's mental health was somewhat scrutinized. One of the deputies who arrested Carpenter in Montana called her behavior, quote, delusional. That deputy at the time requested she undergo a mental health evaluation. Carpenter had claimed that someone had stolen her identity and she had tried crossing into Canada. Prosecutors also noted that she had spent time at an Idaho State mental hospital. Testimony from a detective revealed that the morning of the murder, Carpenter called 911 while in Kootenai County, claiming that someone was trying to break into her home. Cell phone records would later place her in Bonner County the hour leading up to the murder. Other testimony focused on bullet casings found at the scene and the science which linked them to Carpenter's gun. Her lawyers questioned some of the science and the way evidence was collected in the case. A detective noted that nothing in their investigation revealed a clear motive for the killing or any connections between Carpenter and Ramey. Carpenter's lawyers played that up. Now, when it was the prosecutor's turn, one lawyer stated, quote, "We know that the kill shot came from Carpenter's Glock," end quote. He said Carpenter wanted to shoot someone. A judge ultimately agreed that there was enough evidence in the case to have it move forward to district court. He called the case, quote, complex and remarkable. Carpenter's next court date will be later this month. Outside the Bonner County Courthouse, Taylor Vida, KREM 2 News.
I think about it every night, and even thinking about it makes me want to cry.
Well, that is the voice of a stabbing victim last October. He's actually one of 3 people attacked, all within 1 hour in downtown Spokane. After months of delays, the man accused of all those stabbings, Joseph Murray, is expected back in court next month. Victims, though, have been wondering why it's taking so long.
All of a sudden, I felt a sharp jab through the back. He stabbed me on the first side, through my lungs. Then he stabbed me again on the right side, and then I started to scream.
So over the course of the last year, the suspect has had numerous mental evaluations to determine competency for trial. That's a big reason for the delays. Court records show Murray is expected back in court on November 1st on assault charges.
Well, to some national news now as the impeachment inquiry moves forward. The president keeps saying he wants to know the whistleblower's identity, despite measures in place aimed to protect the identity of whistleblowers.
The president has turned to Twitter to express his frustrations about the impeachment inquiry and his desire to meet that whistleblower. Just this week, he wrote, "Like every American, I deserve to meet my accuser, especially when this accuser, the so-called whistleblower, represented a perfect conversation with a foreign leader in a totally inaccurate and fraudulent way." Under the intelligence community's Whistleblower Protection Act, though, that meetup cannot happen.
Whistleblower protection laws exist so a person's identity can be protected, but that's not stopping people from trying to uncover the whistleblower's identity. During a press conference at the White House, President Trump said he agrees with the Protection Act, but he says he doesn't think it applies in this case.
Look, I think a whistleblower should be protected if the whistleblower's legitimate. But when the whistleblower makes a big report on the conversation I had with a president of Ukraine, and it was a great conversation, the whistleblower wrote not that conversation. He wrote a vicious conversation. In other words, he either got it totally wrong, made it up, or the person giving the information to the whistleblower was dishonest. And this country has to find out who that person was, because that person's a spy, in my opinion.
Two people are now offering up a $50,000 reward for the whistleblower's name. The whistleblower's attorneys now expressing concern over their client's safety.
Still ahead tonight, a new app will be available to Washingtonians next year, and it looks to let folks know when an earthquake is headed their way. We'll tell you more about that coming up.